Today I'm going to be making a tier list ranking every Pokemon inside of Unite for everyone that is in the lower levels of the game, meaning if you're in Veteran or below and you're just trying to rank up, this is a tier list you'll need. For this tier list, a lot of the Pokemon will stay in a similar tier for higher tiers of the game. If you are in a higher tier of the game, this does still apply for a lot of the Pokemon, and I will tell you specifically if it does not apply to the higher ranks. Starting quite quickly off with Buzzwole. Probably the single best Pokemon in the game right now. It's got a pretty good early game. You can get great damage early with Fell Stinger to get really good secure. Superpower Smackdown is probably the best set to use, especially that level 10 giving you that extra superpower after you do the combo. Superpower, Smackdown, then Superpower again. Overall, incredibly versatile, really good to stack, really good for overall damage. Buzzwole is probably a really hard carry for anyone in these ranks. I'm just going to carry on from here in the order that it starts, so I'm going to start with Cinderace. Cinderace for me, I'm going to have to put in the B tier. If you're not playing in the center, you will probably lose your games. Cinderace is not really great in lane anymore. You really want to be running it in the center, and it's mainly good for that Unite secure on Rayquaza. With that massive damage Unite, you can just stay from a distance and just snipe it, so as long as you know how to do that, you will probably win your Ray fights quite easily and win the game. Next is Garchomp, and I'm going to be putting him also in the B tier. There's going to be a lot of Pokemon in the B tier because there's so many that you can get away with using really easily, and they are still really good. I would still recommend using these Pokemon. However, they are not quite the top band. Garchomp, both builds are very good. Dragon Rush, Dragon Claw is a great combo if you use Dragon Rush into a Dragon Claw. Then you can go into your Unite and get some massive damage off. Obviously with the ability you can get really good fast attacks in, so maybe a rapid fire Scarf would be good on this sort of build. Dig Earthquake is still also really good to use. Overall just a great all-round Pokemon. You can play this in the center or in lane really. Probably laning is the best though. All these Pokemon within the tier are going to be with their group category, like attackers, defenders, supporters. So there's no real ranking up and down within the tiers themselves. So just bear that in mind when you're looking at the tier list. Next up, Gengar. I'm going to put Gengar. In fact, let's make a new tier. There we go. Gengar is going to be going in the B+ tier. In the low level, Gengar exceeds quite a lot. You can run away with the game really easily as long as you keep your level advantage. Keep going back to the central area, keep getting that XP, and you will stay ahead. And you can assassinate certain Pokemon very quickly with this. Dream Eater Shadow Ball is probably the most popular build right now, but in these lower levels you can get away with running Sludge Bomb Hex. Both are really good to use right now. I would definitely recommend using this Pokemon if you're trying to rank up in these lower ranks. Cramorant is also going to be going in the B tier. Just sort of another pretty average mage. You can, in fact, I'm going to put all of these in right now. So those are all your main mages inside of the game. A lot of these you probably want to be running in the bottom lane with a beefy tank or supporter. As long as, again, you stay ahead of your levels, make sure you get those secures in the early game. All of these mages probably don't fit on the team together, but separately they are really good at just singling out targets, taking them out, doing really high damage even with the frailty of some of these like Gardevoir and Chandelure. Obviously I'd recommend using Gardevoir, Delphox, Pikachu over these ones a little bit more. You can still use everything here. They are all really good and I would still recommend picking them in the game. Wigglytuff is gonna go in the C tier for me. Again, you can still use this Pokemon to much success. I'm not going to bash anybody from playing Wigglytuff. I just personally haven't seen it get much success. It doesn't really do anything in particular. It shouldn't really be a supporter in my opinion. It should probably be a defender. Overall, pretty just average for a supporter. I'm going to try and get through these quite quickly so we don't run into a really long video here. Machamp is going to go in the B tier. Again, there's a lot of these characters you can get away with using. If you're good at them, pick them. That is just an overall rule in the game, to be honest. If you're good with a character, wherever it's placed on this tier list, you can probably still win your games as long as you know your character well. Personally, I think Machamp is pretty good in lane, not great in central. Still pretty decent for an all-rounder, but you can definitely get away with using Machamp in your games. Absol. I'm going to be putting Absol in the A tier. Definitely run this in the central area. An overall rule for lower tier players, you need someone in the central area, otherwise you're missing out on a lot of XP. Make sure you're getting everything in that central. The birds, that being Altarias and Swablues, spawn in the middle at 8 minutes. You want to make sure you can get to that central area and take them out before anyone else gets to them. The Altaria, I believe, spawns in lane at 9 minutes 15. I could be wrong. It could also be 9 minutes. I'll have to fact check myself on that, and I'll post it on screen now if I am wrong. Overall for Absol, pretty much any build is useful here. You want to just keep playing like an assassin, taking out those value targets like your mages, like your Delphoxes, your Gardevoirs, that are really frail, and when you get close to them, you just take them out really easily. You can also run Absol in lane, but I wouldn't really recommend it over some of these other Pokemon. I'm going to move on quite quickly here to Slowbro, which is going to go... Oh, it could be S tier, to be honest. Everyone has Slowbro. Nah, it's going in A. Mainly just for the Slow Beam, I feel boosts it up massively. The Unite move Slow Beam on Slowbro is so good. When you're in the Ray fight, if you just use your Unite move on an enemy, Speedster or a really good attacker like Dragapult or Gardevoir, maybe even Glaceon or Espeon, just any high value target, you can Slow Beam, hopefully a teammate will come and help you take them out, and you can just wipe them out of the Ray fire just like that. It's also really good in lane for its early secure on Water Gun. That Water Gun is incredible. You need to be using it to finish off wild Pokemon. Overall, just incredible for your early game. I would have put it on S tier, but I feel like Buzzwole is just on a different level. Next, I'm going to go to Mr. Mime, which I would also throw in the C tier here. You can get away with using Barrier, Confusion, put the barrier down, throw them into the barrier with your Confusion. Skill Swap Psychic is still decent, but I would not really recommend it because the value from Mr. Mime really comes from later up in the ranks when you actually get used to him a bit more. So I wouldn't really recommend using him down here. Venusaur is going to go in the A tier. Venusaur. So, Solar Beam is going to be by far your best bet. Solar Beam Sludge Bomb is pretty good. If the enemy's got someone who can pressure you quite easily, like a speedster such as Talonflame or Leafeon, maybe even Gengar, you want to be running Giga Drain to make sure you can deal with them at a close range. If you're running Venusaur in the central area, maybe you could do Petal Dance and Giga Drain. But overall, I would definitely recommend Solar Beam. Solar Beam's great for securing objectives. In general, make sure you try and get that last hit on any objective, or any wild Pokemon for that matter, just to make sure you're not behind on your XP, or especially with Rayquaza, you could just lose the game quite easily if you lose the Rayquaza fight, even if you were winning the whole rest of that game. Lucario is going to go in the B tier. Great for stacking. I like to use Aeos Cookie and Attack Weight on this Pokemon. You can get away with using other items, but I recommend stacking on this Pokemon since it's really easy to just quick attack into their goal, score one, kill something else, go back, score again, kill another wild Pokemon, go back, score again, and get your stacks up really quickly. Unless you're against something like Dedcidueye or anything else that's really good at fast attacking. So just be careful of that when you're using them. Talonflame is going to go in the A tier. A lot of these species are going to be quite highly rated on this tier list, mainly because as long as you remember to stay ahead in your levels, you will be really over leveled really strong, and you can take out targets really easily in these lower levels. So if you don't have anyone going central on your team, you could definitely run any speedster really, but especially Talonflame and some others that I would recommend more later on in this tier list. Next up is LD, which is going to go in the B+. And while we're at it, we'll do Blissey as well. Both really good healers, can provide really good secure for ally Pokemon's levels, especially with XP share. Something to keep in mind when you are running items, I'll bring this up now so I don't forget it. Items like Leftovers, Rocky Helmet, don't use them, they're really bad. Make sure you're picking other items instead, especially XP share. Do not run XP share on normal attackers and such. XP share is reserved for supporting Pokemon and defenders that are going to help their teammates level up. XP share does not really help you level up at all, and so if you're trying to use it to level yourself up, don't. And it's really only reserved for these supporting Pokemon that can help their ally in the lane to level up really quickly. Obviously the great support, great Unite moves, overall great Pokemon. You know what, I'm going to put them in A. Sure, why not? Greninja. Greninja is a hard one. I wouldn't really recommend Greninja, but I feel like it's a bit of bias because you would see mainly Cinderace, Greninja and Charizard, and most of the time, especially in these lower ranks, the people running these Pokemon, I will admit, are probably quite bad, and so I do have a bit of bias towards it. But in an unbiased opinion, I feel like Greninja is too unique to succeed in such a low rank. Unique probably isn't really the right word, more just it's hard to play and you can't really get great value out of him in such a low rank. Do not run him in lane, run him in the central area if you are going to use him. I'm not going to put him in D because he genuinely isn't that bad, but I can't really recommend using Greninja. Crustle. Crustle is going to go in B+ for me. The thing that's bringing Crustle down in my ranking, this is another one that's separate for the higher ranks of the game. Crustle would be rated a lot higher. In these lower ranks, you can't really get value out of your Rock Tomb as much, and so normally you're going to be running the Shell Smash and... is it Rock Slide? I don't know. Most of the time you're going to be running the Shell Smash build because Rock Tomb doesn't really get great value in these lower ranks. Of course, if you are closely knit with your team, you can block off someone important like a Zeraora, an Absol, someone like that, kill them quite easily, and then they're taken out of the game for a very long time because they probably are overleveled. However, in these lower ranks, you'll find that there is basically no coordination between your team, and you are basically just playing on your own until the Rayquaza fight probably. So a lot of these Pokemon that can solo carry quite easily are going to be a lot higher on this tier list compared to in other ranks. Snorlax. I am going to have to put Snorlax in the... do I put it in D? I feel like I don't want to, but I kind of will. Snorlax is probably one of the only Pokemon that I just straight up would not recommend at all in these lower ranks. Snorlax basically gets no value at all. Yawn is quite good. Heavy Slam is decent. Block can be good in some certain scenarios, like say you're trying to hold off the Regieleki from your base and no one's really there with you, so you're trying to push him back and everyone else that's there, so you can hold off for your team to get there. Flail is just downright awful. Do not pick Flail. Heavy Slam is probably the better build no matter what. Flail is very niche. I would not recommend it at all, and I would not recommend Snorlax. If you're going to play a defender, play someone like Blastoise, who is going to go in the S tier for me. Blastoise needs to be nerfed, along with Buzzwole. Surf Hydro Pump is so good for stuns, for moving your enemies. The Unite move is fantastic, sending everyone up, allowing your team to pinch in damage here and there, and wipe out everyone in the Ray fight, and then you win the game, as you will have seen if you watched my best defender video. Along with that, Blastoise early game is really good. Skull Bash, Water Gun and the boosted attack are all really good secure. when you're in lane against a Squirtle, you basically cannot secure anything as long as they're playing correctly. Blastoise can even be played in the central area if you have to. If you're running Rapid Spin Blastoise, which I would recommend Water Spout. But you can use Hydro Pump with Rapid Spin, it just sort of depends on what your playstyle is. Blastoise is just such a versatile Pokemon. It is so great. Honestly, if this wasn't based on just individual tiers and it was individual Pokemon, I think I might actually put Blastoise ahead of Buzzwole, especially for these lower tiers of the game. Buzzwole is probably a lot better in top level, but I'm not talking about top level right now. I'm talking about the lower level. Blastoise is fantastic. If you want to rank up, use Blastoise. Charizard is going to go in the C tier. The main problem with Charizard, and you'll see with a lot of Pokemon here to be honest, is there's not really anything Charizard does that other Pokemon don't just do better. If you want it in a kill confirm on the target with Charizard's Unite move, that can quite easily be done a lot better with a Pokemon such as Slowbro or Leafeon, or even Gyarados for that matter. Not to forget Syther and Scizor. A lot of what Charizard does just is not really relevant. If you want to play Charizard, there's just better options, to be honest, and I just really would not suggest playing him at all. Zeraora is going to go in the B tier. So, Zeraora. Zeraora is, again, just kind of mid at the moment. He doesn't really do anything specifically. He's still really good in these lower ranks. Any set really can be used on him. As long as you're staying in the central area, staying ahead, you can get really easy kills. A lot of speedsters, even if they were bad, I wouldn't say Zeraora is bad, he's just kind of in the middle right now. But even with being a speedster, as long as you stay ahead, you'll just run away with the game really easily. Mamoswine is going to go in the B tier for me. A lot of what Mamoswine does is very good, but again, there are sort of just better options. However, I still think he is really good right now. He's a lot of fun. If you want to try a new defender, probably pick up Mamoswine. Of course, I would definitely recommend Blastoise every day of the week. However, he does have a niche, he does have some uses, and is more of an all-rounder than a defender, apart from, of course, like Ice Fang and moves like that. But yeah, I can definitely recommend using Mamoswine in your games. Pretty much everything in this B tier and above I would recommend. C tier you can still get away with. D tier, probably just pick something else. There's just better options. Greedent. Not really much else to say. Greedent is probably in a tier of its own right now. It does not really do anything at all. If you want to invade the enemy jungle, of course that's a good idea. I would just recommend picking something else for that. If you're wanting a defender, pick something else. Even Snorlax is better. Greedent doesn't really fit the defender role, I would say. He doesn't really fit anything, along with probably some other Pokemon, such as Sableye, which I'll get to in a minute. Greedent just does not do anything of note at all right now. He is desperate for a buff, although I don't really want to go back to a Greedent meta. But if you want to play Greedent, go for it. I would not recommend it in the slightest though. Dedcidueye. B tier. Dedcidueye is quite a different one for me. He's okay in lane. Central is really what you want to be playing. He's got really good confirm. One thing, if you are playing Dedcidueye, I need you to remember, you can cancel the Unite move. If you are being pushed by other Pokemon and they're getting too close for comfort, cancel Unite and get away. You can cancel it. I've seen way too many Dedcidueyes just sit there, shooting their arrows and just get killed. Otherwise, again, really good confirm. It's basically just Cinderace, but you have it on a quite fast cooldown. If you can hit your shots quite well, you will run away with the game really quick with this Pokemon. Tsareena, I'm going to put in the D tier. Tsareena can be good, but if you want to play Tsareena, you kind of have to just devote yourself to it. It can be a hard Pokemon to play. It is very different. Play it in the central area. God forbid, do not play Tsareena in lane. Tsareena, along with another Pokemon I'll get to in a minute, are quite hard. If you want to just rank up easily, probably just pick something else that is good in lane, such as one of the speedsters or Venusaur or other Pokemon like that. Dragonite is going to be going in the A tier for me. Extreme Speed is probably a move you don't want to be using, although it is alright. Dragon Dance Hyper Beam or Dragon Dance Outrage is really good. The Unite move, it can be really good at moving yourself around the map. He's got decent secure, he can be played in lane, he can be played in central. If we have too many Pokemon in A, I will make an A+, and Dragonite will be in A+, without a doubt. Not quite S tier, but it's still a really strong pick. I would definitely recommend this Pokemon. Trevanant, A. Trevanant does not really have a bad kit right now. You can run Woodhammer Hornleech, you can run Curse Hornleech, you can run Curse Pain Split, you could even run Woodhammer Pain Split, although I would not really recommend it. You sort of pick your moves depending on what you're coming up against with Tree. Overall, he's a really strong defender, he stays alive for a really long time, can be a real nuisance for the enemy team. If you don't have a defender on your team and you really need a defender, because I would not recommend a full team of attackers and all-rounders, or speedsters for that matter. You will just get flattened by a team that has a singular defender and something that can take you out really quickly. Although it doesn't really matter as much in the lower ranks, I would still recommend having a defender on your team, or even a supporter, every single game. If you want to be winning games, I would definitely recommend it. Aeigeslash is going to be going in the D tier for me. This is another Pokemon that's probably a bit higher at least on tier lists where it's ranking the top level of the game. I was talking about this before, but I'll do it now before I forget. Zeraora is also going to be in the D tier for me. All three of these Pokemon have such unique playstyles that you really need to dedicate yourself to them to be able to play them properly. Especially Aeigeslash and Zoroark. Did I say Zoroark at the start or did I say Zeraora? I think I said Zeraora, sorry. But yeah, all three of these, you really need to dedicate yourself to them. And especially in these two cases, it's really hard to get good with them. You'll just lose loads of your games. I'd recommend just practicing here and there with them. Play something else in the meantime, and then when you do get better with them, maybe swap to them then, and then you will probably win all your games, to be honest. Hoopa, probably my favourite supporter, probably one of my favourite Pokemon in this game, full stop, but it is going to be going in the D tier for me. Hoopa is a really good pick. However, Hoopa really relies on a team that is going to use the portals and go with the Hoopa to the hyperspace hole. You can rotate between Regieleki or the Regis down bottom. You can put portals down for your teammates to heal and get straight back into the fight. Unite move is the best Unite move in my opinion. Just get everyone into an area, take everyone out really quickly, become really overpowered for a short time. Hyperspace Fury, really good. But you do need a coordinated team to make Hoopa work. In these lower ranks, you'll have, I'm going to be honest, you'll have people that just aren't great. They won't be going to your portals. They won't be moving together as one singular unit. They won't take your Unite move portal and you're probably just going to get yourself killed. If you want to play a supporter, play Blissey or Eldegoss and save your Hoopa for when you get higher up in the ranks and you'll have at least some competent teammates. In these lower ranks, you really do need to just learn how to solo carry, because sometimes you will be given a bad hand and you'll get bad teammates and you've just got to live with it. Duraludon is going to go in the C tier for me. I really just have not seen any Duraludon at all. No one really plays this Pokemon, but it's still decent. I would obviously recommend other ones instead of it, but it's alright. If you want to play Duraludon, cool, stick with it, do what you want. I wouldn't really suggest it, but that's probably because I just haven't really seen enough of it. Azumarill is underrated in my opinion. It's going in beta. Azumarill with Aqua Tail can be really good damage, evolves early, which you'll see quite a lot of later on. Decent Unite move, overall just kind of middle of the lane, pretty good but not amazing. If you want to play Azumarill, go for it. I'm going to do both Espeon and Glaceon at the same time here. Another two Pokemon that evolve really early, really good in the bottom lane, decent in the top lane, really good in the central area for that matter. They get Unite moves fast, really high damage output. Stay away from your enemies, just stay behind your tanks, your healers, whatever, and you'll do massive damage and carry your team. Again, if there was a A+, this would definitely be in it. They're great Pokemon, I'd recommend them. Tyranitar. I wouldn't really recommend it at all because it can be quite boring just sitting in the central area the entire game, because this Pokemon just is not good until it gets you level 9. If you're willing to commit to it, I would put it in the C tier. Again, if you're willing to commit to it, go for it, but I would not really recommend it. If you want to play something in the central area, go something like Dragonite, Absol, Talonflame, or Espeon. Mew. I completely forgot about Mew. It's also going to go in the D tier for the same factor as these three. Really hard to play, really unique play style. If you want to stick to it, go for it, but I wouldn't recommend it until you're at least more experienced in the game. Dodrio. Similar sort of case to these three, to be honest, but I feel like it is a lot easier than those three, or those four for that matter. I'm going to put it in the C tier. If you can get good with Dodrio, you will absolutely run your entire game. You'll run through the ranks, you'll get straight up really quickly. But again, if you're not great with it, I would say it's probably not a good pick. Stick with something a lot better, like an Absol. Or one of the other two speedsters that is still in the bottom of this list that I'll get to in a minute. Syther and Scizor. Scizor is going to go in B+ for me, and Syther is going to go in B. Scizor, you have good survivability. Overall, great Pokemon. A lot of people have realised how good Scizor is actually after the buffs it got in the last patch. Scizor has had a massive play spike. You can run both in the central area, although I would definitely say if you're running Syther, play in the central area. Unite moves are great. It's got decent secure. Overall, just pretty decent Pokemon. I would recommend. Clefable has dropped off. It's going to go in the B tier for me. In the last patch, it would be probably S tier. But after those healing nerfs, it's just not really competing with Eldegoss or Blissey. Gravity can stop a lot of Pokemon like Dodrio, your Zoroarks, anything that needs to get in and get out really quickly. Overall, still a really decent pick, but I would definitely recommend Eldegoss or Blissey over it. Sableye. C tier. Again, a niche pick, still not really great. However, Sableye can be great at jungle invading the enemy team. Sableye can be great at getting extra points. A lot of the time you'll see a Sableye, maybe even with Go-Getter, and they will have the most points on your entire team, and sometimes it will just win you the game from having a Sableye. The Unite move can be really clutch in the Ray fight. However, I would definitely say it is probably one of the more niche picks. Maybe don't play it, but if you're confident in your Sableye abilities, go for it. Dark Bear is going to go in the B tier. If you want to play Urshifu, play it in the central area. If you're in lane, you are just going to throw the game. I'm sorry. Urshifu is pretty awful until it gets its level 5 and evolves. Even then, it's just sort of middle of the road. However, I would say it's definitely gotten a lot better. Water Bear I'll do at the same time while I'm at it, and it's going to go in the D tier. Overall, just not great. If you're playing Urshifu, play Dark Bear, please. Water Bear is just really mid right now. It doesn't really do anything. I could see an argument for C tier, but I still wouldn't really do it. On to Dragapult, which is going to go straight in the A tier. If you're playing Dragapult in the central area, if you're running Phantom Force, even if you're running Dragon Dance, I would say run Rapid Fire Scarf and you'll just destroy everybody. The ability on Dragapult gives you an extra stack every time you get a kill. Get as many kill steals as possible because it will make you stronger and it will make you harder to defeat. Overall, fantastic Pokemon. Not really great in lane. Play him in central area, you'll win games. Comfey is entirely dependent on your team. Therefore, it is a lot lower ranked in my opinion. Comfey is pretty amazing at pocketing Pokemon like Mewtwo, Miraidon, even something like a Leafeon, Anything that's strong that just needs that little bit more is fantastic. You can run away with games really easily. However, because it's lower rank, you kind of need to solo carry a lot more, and so with it being entirely dependent on your team, even in solo queue in general, I wouldn't really recommend Comfey. If you see someone who you think is strong on your team, like a Mewtwo with good items, they look like they know what they're doing, sure, play Comfey, pocket them all game, and you'll probably win. But again, if you don't feel confident in your team, if you still want to play supporter, play Elde, play Blissey. If you aren't really too fussed, I would definitely recommend Blastoise, of course. Overall, Comfey is pretty good, but with it being entirely dependent on your team, I can't really recommend it. On to Zacian, and that is going to go in the A tier. As long as you're using your Eos coins, you don't forget that your Unite move, you have to charge it. You can easily snowball your games. It can be played in Central. I would recommend going in Lane. Lane Zacian is just really hard to deal with. It's got really good moves, upgrades with your points. Overall, just all the EX Pokemon are just really good. If you're not confident in your team's ability, pick one of these EXs and you'll carry the game, you'll win. Goodra is going to be ranked a lot higher than in higher ranks. I'm going to put it in the A tier. In the higher ranks, Goodra is not really great because it doesn't really provide anything for the team like other defenders would. But in these lower ranks, the enemy team will kind of just throw themselves at you and you can just keep healing. I'd recommend running a potion on this. Of course, you've got your ability healing if you go in the bush, constant healing with Dragon Pulse. Even if you're running something like Muddy Water, you got really good defenses. You basically just can't be killed and people will just keep attacking you until they just end up dying and you're at the same HP as you started with. Overall, really decent. I'd probably say Slowbro and Tree are a lot better, but Goodra is still really good in these lower ranks. Lapras is either C or B. I'm going to chuck it in the C tier. Lapras is another one that just doesn't really do anything in these lower ranks, even in the top ranks to be honest. You can do really well with it. It can even just carry if your attackers or whatever, your normal carrier Pokemon aren't really doing too great. You can still do really well with this Pokemon, but I would not really recommend it over some others such as Blastoise. Umbreon is kind of a niche pick right now. It's going to go in the B tier. Umbreon used to be really good. Mean Look isn't really as great in these lower ranks because your teammates just aren't really going to be there to help you. Of course, if they are, Mean Look can easily trap a target, kill something off really quickly like a Glaceon, and then quite quickly put you ahead for that fight. Of course, if you're running into something with high shields like a Crustle, you can just easily steal those away with your Unite move. It's pretty decent overall, I would say. You can still do really well with this Pokemon, although I would not really recommend it over some like Blastoise, but it's still a great pick. Leafeon is going to go in B+. I just realised these are the wrong way around. Leafeon is absolutely broken, but you need to make sure, in fact I'm going to put it in A. You need to make sure that you're not just running head first because your HP is really low and you will just get taken out just as quickly as you take other Pokemon out. However, if you keep your distance, you'll do massive damage and just carry your games. Go in Central, even in Lane it's really good, which now that I think about it, it's definitely A tier because you can just run it in Lane. You can do massive damage really quickly, fast Unite move, good confirms, brilliant Pokemon. Inteleon is going to go in C tier. If you are adamant and playing Inteleon in these lower ranks, play Liquidation Inteleon. If you want to play Snipe Shot, you will want to practice a little bit more because Inteleon really relies on hitting those Snipe Shots. And if you can't do that, you're better off just picking something else. It is a hard Pokemon to play. If you can master it, fantastic. You'll go straight up the ranks really quickly. Otherwise, probably just pick something else, like Espeon or Glaceon or Blastoise. Mewtwo X and Y, we're doing both at the same time. are going to go straight in A, possibly even S. You can make an argument for it, and I would probably agree. Mewtwo, especially with the Rapid Fire Scarf, is unbelievable. In fact, I might actually put it in S tier, but because of the frailty and it being lower rank, I think I might hold it back a bit. Mewtwo X is also fantastic, but I feel like Mewtwo Y is just a little bit better. Overall, really strong. If you don't really have range on your team, pick Mewtwo Y. Overall, both just great Pokemon. Blaziken is quite unique. I'm going to put it in B+, although you could make an argument for it being higher. Make sure you're using your Overheat to secure... Make sure that you're using your Overheat to secure objectives. Remember that your Unite move basically lets you have 4 abilities at once. So you can just use your Overheat, use your Blaze Kick, swap, Focus Blast, Fire Punch, and then swap again when you want. Gives Blaziken a really unique playstyle that no other Pokemon really has. Mastering Blaziken is really good fun. I would recommend it, although sometimes it's just not for you. If that is so and you still want to play an all-rounder, Dragonite, Zacian, Lucario, they're all there. Of course, Buzzwole. Mimikyu is going to go in the B tier. In Central, it's pretty good, and some may make an argument for B+. I wouldn't really agree. It's alright. Trick Room is mid. The other set is pretty good. Central, you can quite quickly, as all Pokemon can. If you get the Central area and you stay ahead of the game, you win the game. That's as simple as it gets in these lower ranks. Hoopa is, of course, already a character. Meowscarada is going to go in the S tier. Some people may argue for A, but I think this is the single best speedster in the game right now. Trailblaze Night Slash is really easy to use. Meowscarada stays ahead of the levels really easily. Pick Meowscarada, play in the Central. Unite comes back really quickly. It's really good damage for how quickly it comes back. Overall, yes, definitely play Meowscarada. Coming down to our last 3 here, Metagross is going to go in B+. Any set is decent. I would definitely recommend Magnet Rise and Gyro Ball the most. Best combo to use your Magnet Rise, spin with your Gyro Ball, then slam back down with your Magnet Rise. Just keep auto attacking, you'll kill them. Pretty good in lane, pretty good in center. Overall, just pretty great. Gyarados is going to go in the A tier. Of course, Magikarp is basically useless, but as soon as you get that Gyarados, you can run away with the game really easily. Don't play this in Central, play it in the lane. You'll do well. Unite move comes back decently fast. Hold down the Unite move, make sure you do. I've seen too many Gyarados just click it and it does nothing basically. Make sure when you're using Unite move, you hold it down, you do massive damage really easily. Gyarados is a great pick right now. And then on to Miraidon, which is going to be our attacker that is also in the S tier. I would definitely argue if there was a order for this in the S tier, it would go Blastoise, then Buzzwole, then Miraidon, then Meowscarada. Miraidon, especially the Charge Beam and Thunder build, even after the nerfs, is still really good. You can run Electro Drift. It would make it more of a speedster build, and so if you're playing Electro Drift, probably go in the central area. However, Charge Beam is really easy to get good value out of. You have massive range, comes back really quickly. The Unite move is still really good. Definitely pick this Pokemon. That is going to be it for my tier list for the lower ranked players inside of Pokemon Unite. If you found this useful, I've got a video detailing how you can get every Pokemon as fast as you can inside of Pokemon Unite right here.